My sister-in-law told my kids, "Your mother's a burden. She might not be around much longer." My husband said, "Don't make a scene. She's just joking." I waited until her birthday dinner to stand, raise a glass, and announce what I found in her phone. Live in a suburb just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been married to Adam for 17 years. We have 2 kids, Eli, 14, and Maddie, 11. I used to be a high school English teacher. Loved it. But everything changed last October when I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. It came on slowly. First, I couldn't explain why I was so tired all the time. I'd sleep 9 hours and still feel like I was underwater. Then came the tremors in my hands, the brain fog, the pain in my legs. The doctors ran tests, and when they said the words out loud, "You have MS," I felt like the ground shifted under me. I told Adam. He blinked, nodded, and said, "We'll figure it out." But he never really asked questions after that. Never came to an appointment. Just kind of drifted into silence. And then Melanie started coming around. She's Adam's younger sister. 39. Never had kids. Never really held a job. Married into money. She's got the kind of body you only get from never working and spending hours a day at Pilates. Everything in her life looks like a curated Instagram ad. Perfect nails, glowing skin, designer everything. I used to tolerate her. But once I got sick, she turned into a full-time expert, dropping off kombucha, sending me links to miracle supplements, asking if I'd tried releasing stored trauma or emotional fasting, and always with that fake-ass smile that made me want to scream. One afternoon, I came home from PT and found her in our living room with Maddie. They were playing with the dog. I thanked her for watching the kids. She smiled and said, "Of course. I just wanted to check in on my favorite little people. They're being so brave, with everything." I thought that was a weird thing to say, but I didn't push. The next day, I found Maddie curled up in her room, crying into her stuffed llama. I asked what was wrong. She wouldn't look at me at first. Then she whispered, "Aunt Mel said you're a burden, that you might not be around much longer, that Daddy's really stressed because of you." I sat down on the floor. I couldn't even react. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. When Adam got home, I told him. He didn't even flinch. Just said, "She jokes like that. You know how Mel is. Don't make a big thing out of it." I said, "She told our daughter I might die, Adam." And he had the nerve to say, "You're being sensitive." That night, something inside me hardened. I stopped crying. I stopped explaining. I just started watching, listening. Over the next few weeks, I noticed a pattern. Melanie would swing by once or twice a week, always checking in, always acting like the star of some motivational video. Adam would perk up around her. He'd laugh more. He'd offer her drinks, make inside jokes. They had this vibe like she was his real partner, and I was the ghost in the room. One day, Melanie came over when Adam wasn't home. She left her phone on the counter while helping Maddie with a puzzle. At one point, it buzzed, and the screen lit up. A message preview from Adam popped up. LOL, she actually thinks we're being nice. My stomach dropped. I picked it up. There was no password. I know I shouldn't have, but I went through her messages. There were weeks' worth of texts with Adam. Long threads. Melanie, how long until she gives up and goes to a care home? Adam, she'll hang on. Guilt's her fuel. Melanie, you don't deserve this. You're too young to play nurse. Adam, I know. I miss having energy around me. Melanie, dead weight isn't a wife. There were photos of them at a bar, taken late at night when I thought he was working late. One where her hand was on his thigh. My whole body went cold. I put her phone back and said nothing. I didn't even cry. I was too far past it. I made a plan. Her birthday was coming up. She was planning a dinner, 30 guests, all her polished little yoga friends and rich suburban followers. Rented out a private dining room at some overpriced place in South End. I offered to help with decorations. Played the role of supportive sister-in-law. That night, I dressed up. I smiled through the fake kisses and the smell of Melanie's expensive perfume. She stood up, gave a long-winded speech about living your truth and surrounding yourself with people who raise your vibration. And then I stood, glass raised. To Melanie, I said, "Thank you for showing me who you really are." She smiled at first, thought I was complimenting her. I looked her straight in the eye. "I found your messages. You and Adam. Every word." The room went still. "You could have heard a fork hit the floor. You told my kids I was a burden. You told my husband he deserves someone with more energy. You plotted my absence like it was a business plan. And Adam, you laughed with her. You never once defended me." I sat down. Didn't wait for a reaction. Let the silence speak. After that dinner, everything changed. But not in the clean, satisfying way I imagined. Melanie didn't say a word as I sat back down. Her friends stared at her, some with their mouths open. Adam looked stunned, but not guilty. Just embarrassed. Like a kid caught cheating on a test. No one clapped. No one said anything. And that silence, that cold, stinging silence, was the only justice I got that night. I drove home alone. Adam didn't follow. He stayed behind with her. The next morning, he walked in like nothing happened.
No apology.
No explanation. Just this dull, passive look on his face. I asked him straight up, "Are you sleeping with her?" He didn't answer. I said, "Say it, Adam." Still nothing. Finally, he muttered, "It was emotional, not physical. It's not what you think." I laughed in his face. "You were planning my exit. Telling your sister you'd be better off without me. You think I give a damn what you call it." Then came the gaslighting. You invaded her privacy. You embarrassed yourself. You turned her birthday into a scene. I wanted to throw something. Instead, I said, "This is your final warning. You can either own up to it or you can leave." He walked out. I thought he'd go to a hotel. Nope. He moved in with her. Told the kids it was temporary. That mommy needs time. Maddie wouldn't even look at him. Eli locked himself in his room for a full day. People started reaching out. Quietly. Melanie's yoga friends. One of them DM'd me saying, "I thought something was off." She always acted like she was his wife. Another woman, an old friend of mine who works at a wellness spa, told me Melanie had brought Adam in for a couple session months ago. She thought it was weird when Melanie introduced him as her soulmate. But the real breaking point came when I found out Adam had pulled $15,000 out of our joint savings. When I confronted him, he said, "I needed to get ahead on bills." I said, "We don't have $15,000 in bills." Turns out, he helped Melanie put a deposit on some startup idea she had. Something about retreats and healing spaces. He said she was finally doing something real. I was stunned. That money was supposed to be for the kids' summer programs, and part of it was earmarked for my medical costs. He took it anyway. I filed for legal separation that week. My lawyer told me to prepare for a fight. Melanie had apparently convinced him I was unstable, claiming I had emotional episodes and couldn't parent alone. He tried to use my MS as proof I wasn't fit to have primary custody. He tried to paint himself as the victim. Melanie even submitted character letters from her friends about my paranoia. Said I created drama that wasn't there. That I twisted innocent support into betrayal. I almost gave up. I almost believed it. That's how low they took me. But then I found something else. Something that would change everything. The thing I found, I wasn't even looking for it. It started when I checked the shared cloud drive we'd used for years. Photos, documents, kids' school files. I was looking for Eli's science project from last semester to help him rebuild it. Instead, I saw a folder I hadn't noticed before. Buried deep under subfolders labeled with boring names like 2021 statements and tax prep. Inside was a PDF. Titled Care Plan R. Whitmore. My name. I opened it. It was a draft document. A proposal for long-term placement. An assisted living facility in Raleigh. The file included a letter Adam had started writing and signed, undated, explaining that my health was declining and that he may be forced to transition Rachel into full-time care for the sake of family stability. It was dated 3 months before that birthday dinner. 3 months. Meaning while he was still sleeping in my bed, while I was struggling to make it to therapy and raising our kids. He was making plans to lock me away. Like I was some dying weight he needed to drop off before moving on. That was bad enough. But there was more. Tucked in the same folder was a contract. Not signed but filled out. Melanie's name on the letterhead. It was a business plan. An LLC proposal for Sanctuary Nest. A retreat center for women seeking clarity and liberation. Melanie had listed herself as co-founder and Adam as investor and silent partner. And under the funding sources? A line item for $60,000. That wasn't startup money. That was our money. I dug further. Checked our bank records, and sure enough, over the past 9 months, Adam had been quietly siphoning money. Small transfers. Masked as tuition payments, car maintenance, medical copays. None of it real. The total? $47,300 gone. He didn't just betray me. He robbed me. He robbed our children. I took screenshots. Printed everything. Gave it all to my lawyer. That week, I also did something I hadn't done in years. I met with a friend of mine who works in local news. I didn't say much. Just asked, if someone used their sick spouse's disability to fund a business with their sister, would that be of interest? Her face said it all. Things moved quickly after that. Melanie caught wind of it first. She showed up at my house, uninvited, wearing sunglasses and a fake smile. Said she wanted to clear the air. I told her to get off my porch. She tried to spin it, said she was helping me by preparing for the future. That she only wanted Adam to be free to care for me properly. I said, you are building a life with him while building a cage for me. Don't pretend it was kindness. Then I shut the door in her face. That same night, Adam sent me an email.
No paleguí.
Just a warning. If you go public, the kids will suffer. I'll fight you with everything I have. I forwarded it to my lawyer. Because what he didn't know yet was that he had already lost everything. Adam thought I was bluffing. That I'd cave like I always had. That I'd back down to keep the peace. But something in me had changed. I wasn't scared of them anymore. My lawyer filed a motion for emergency financial protection. With the bank statements, the LLC paperwork, and the draft care facility letter, the court agreed to freeze our joint accounts until things could be sorted. That shut down Melanie's Sanctuary Nest idea overnight. I served Adam with divorce papers the next morning. Full custody request. Financial misconduct attached. My lawyer added a formal complaint outlining how he'd used marital funds without my consent while attempting to move me into care against my will. Then came the fallout. The story broke on a Thursday. My friend from the news didn't name names, but the headline was unmistakable. Local man accused of using chronically ill wife's funds to start business with sister. Within hours, everyone in our neighborhood had read it. People who used to fawn over Melanie at brunch stopped talking to her. The yoga studio dropped her from the schedule, pending review. Even her Instagram turned against her. Sponsors pulled out, and the comments lit up with fire emojis and words like disgusting, manipulative, evil. Adam called me that night. I let it go to voicemail. He didn't apologize. He just said, we could have handled this quietly. I texted back one line. So could you have handled my life? The court ruled in my favor 2 weeks later. Temporary full custody. He was allowed supervised visits. The judge said something I'll never forget. Mr. Whitmore, being tired of a spouse is not justification for financial betrayal. Your actions show calculated cruelty. Melanie tried to spin her way out. Claimed she was misunderstood. That her texts were taken out of context. But her husband found out too, and left her. Apparently, she had drained some of his accounts as well, to cover the deposit Adam didn't fully fund. He filed for divorce. Within a month, she lost everything. Her marriage, her business reputation, half her social circle. Her world crumbled like a paper castle. Adam moved into a tiny one-bedroom apartment. He sent a few emails asking to talk. I ignored everyone. He tried to call Eli and Maddie, but they didn't want to speak to him. Not after what they heard. Not after what he'd done. The hardest part was rebuilding trust with my kids. I had to look them in the eye and say, I knew something was wrong. I didn't stop it fast enough. But I will never let anyone hurt you like that again. And I meant it. It took months, but we stabilized. I went back to work part-time. I joined a local support group for women with MS. We started laughing again in the house. Not every day, but enough. As for revenge, I didn't burn their house down. I didn't scream or beg. I didn't throw punches. I stood up, told the truth, and let their lies collapse under their own weight. The most satisfying part? I got to watch it all happen. Stone sober.
With my kids by my side. And they
got exactly what they deserved. Every last bit of it. There was one last thing I had to do before closing the book on Adam and Melanie completely. After the court rulings, the custody, the financial freeze, it still didn't feel finished. Not for me. Not for what they tried to take. They didn't just try to humiliate me. They tried to erase me. I thought about how Adam sat in our kitchen, laughing in texts with his sister about putting me in a care home. About how he stole money from his own kids and called it relief. About how Melanie stood in my living room and called it healing. They weren't just cruel. They were calculating. I remembered the draft letter, the one he wrote for the care facility. The fake story he tried to create to get me out of the way. So I wrote one of my own. Not a letter. A full timeline. Emails. Text screenshots. Financial records. Legal filings. Statements from people who witnessed things, including that yoga teacher Melanie confided in, who admitted she felt uncomfortable around Melanie and Adam together. Then I sent it all to the school board where Adam used to volunteer. And I sent it to the Wellness Grant Foundation Melanie had applied to for her so-called women's retreat. The one she was bragging about getting based on her personal journey supporting chronic illness caregivers. They both lost everything tied to those lies. Adam was removed from the district's parent advisory group. His name scrubbed from volunteer records. Melanie was banned from applying for nonprofit wellness grants in the state for fraudulently misrepresenting her business and background. I didn't want money. I wanted the truth on paper. For the people they fooled to know. The final twist came months later, quietly. A letter arrived from Melanie. It wasn't an apology. Not really. It was 4 pages of circular talk about energy and manifestation and how pain attracts pain. But at the end, there was one sentence that stood out. I didn't think you had it in you. She was right. I didn't think I did either. But I found something in myself during all of this. Something they didn't see coming. Strength that didn't shout. Power that didn't flinch. The kind that comes from being pushed too far for too long and finally deciding, never again. Now, I live in a smaller place with Eli and Maddie. It's not fancy, but it's ours. They see me. They trust me. And they know this. Their mother is not a burden. She is a survivor. And no one will ever make her feel small again.